Good afternoon, everyone. It's Dr. Umar from Hive Medical Academy here for another session of our podcast. Today, we've very kindly been joined by Maria. Maria is a final year medical student and she's in probably her busiest year. She's given up
Mhm.
a bit of time to speak to us about her experiences and um, lessons and aspirations and stuff. So thank you so much, Maria, for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you very much. Firstly, it's a pleasure to be invited here today. And thank you very much. So I'll just give like a little bit of introduction.
Yeah, sure.
So my name is Maria. I'm a final year medical student at the University of Leeds. And like Dr. Umar mentioned, yeah, I'm in my final year, so it's getting busy. Exams are coming, coming around soon. But I'm looking forward to talking about my experiences with you guys.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Maria. So, um, I think first of all, if you wouldn't mind, I'd just like to take you back a bit in time to maybe the first time you thought of doing medicine
Yeah.
or becoming a doctor. Um, can you remember the point when that was, or how old you were, and what were the kind of influences that made you think of that decision? Do you want to just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think the idea first came after I sat my GCSEs,
Okay.
and when I started sixth form. Um, yeah, I think based on like the GCSE exam results that I got, so I did quite well in my GCSEs, which meant I was open to basically
Mm,
lots of options, career options that I could go
yeah.
through down the route. And then when I was in sixth form, we had like a careers day, and that's when I got more information about the different, university courses that there are, and got told like information about like medicine and dentistry,
Mm,
and things like that. And I think that's when like I first got introduced to it. And then I went away and I did my own research into like entry requirements and A levels that I A level requirements and things like that. Um, so yeah, I would say like after GCSEs when I started sixth form, and also I come from a family where there aren't any doctors, so I'm the
okay.
first one in
Yeah.
my family. So I never really had exposure to anyone really from the
Mm,
medical field. There's no like like pharmacists,
yeah.
optometrists, doctors,
Okay.
dentists. Like I've not been brought up like that. So I think especially when you come from that sort of background as well, the
Mm,
exposure you have is quite limited. So that's why I was really only first introduced to it by like career advisors in like sixth form.
okay. All right. Okay. That's interesting. That's quite different to my own experience.
Yeah,
I didn't have any medics in the family either,
yeah,
but we did have one or two people who had entered medicine at least, and so I always had that kind of in the background, and
yeah,
I think I don't know if things have changed, but when I was growing up, medicine was still like, the number one choice for especially people from a
yeah,
South Asian background like us.
yeah, yeah.
So there was none of that in your family, extended family, or nothing,
Yeah,
no kind of encouragement or even
yeah.
like a gentle nudge?
Yeah, no, there was
Yeah.
encouragement. There
Okay.
was encouragement. So obviously, when we were setting my GCSEs or when exams
Yeah.
came, obviously my parents encouraged me to do the best that I could. They were like, obviously, it's a good future, stable future. The reputation as well of doctors and dentists and like pharmacists, really good. So yeah, they encouraged me and they pushed me, and you need that sometimes as well.
Yeah,
As a
definitely.
student, when you're young as well. Yeah, so I had the encouragement, but I wouldn't say it was forced on me.
Okay.
It was my
Yeah, yeah.
my own decision as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's always good, obviously, because
Yeah.
it's such a long and
Yeah.
difficult journey, and it continues even after graduation, obviously,
Yeah.
which we'll come to in a second. Um, okay, and how was the whole kind of experience for you in terms of, the competition, getting in, sitting the UCAT and all that kind of stuff? How was that?
Yeah, again, that was really tough. It is a tough process applying to
Mm,
medicine. It's very competitive. So I could start it from the beginning really. So obviously I sat my GCSEs, and then I got like eights and nines in that and sevens. So that put me up like from that point I was eligible. And then I applied for my A levels. So in A levels, I did biology, chemistry, and maths. And I think the most university, the minimum
Mm,
requirement is three A's. So I met
mm,
the minimum requirement. And then going forward, it was like part of UCAS. Actually, yeah, before that, we have to sit the UCAT at the end of year
yeah.
12, so first year of
Mm,
sixth form. Yeah, so the UCAT process, that was difficult. Again, I didn't really have anybody to like in a personal family, friends. I was the only one as well on my friend group who was
mm,
applying to medicine.
okay.
So again, didn't really have anyone to like, like relate to or like
Mm,
share notes or share ideas with. However, I did get support from like my sixth form, our form tutors. They were really supportive. A sixth form put on like revision sessions and like guidance from like older students who like would give us talks, those who've applied to medicine.
mhm.
Um, but I would say most of it was me looking online and like using online resources,
Okay.
um, YouTube videos, things like that,
Mm,
to prepare. Um, so yeah, I sat the UCAT and my score was like competitive, so I knew I had a good chance
okay.
of getting like maybe some interviews.
Mm,
Um, and then I think, yeah, in year 13, I sent off my application through UCAS with my personal statement. And then I got interview offers, and then I got offers, and then decided to accept my Leeds University offer.
okay. Brilliant. And did you have any experience, because UCAT, we never had to do
Yeah,
UCAT. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
went to medical school in the 2000s. We didn't have UCAT then. Did you
yeah.
have any experience with like 11 plus or them kind of papers at all? Or was it totally
No,
new? Wow.
no. So
Okay.
I went to, yeah, a bit of background
State
as well.
school.
I went to a state
Yeah,
school,
like
no
me.
like grammar school,
Yeah.
so I didn't
Yeah.
have to do any of these entrance
Same here.
tests or things like that.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't really have experience. I would say that's like my
Mm.
first experience of like something extra that you would do,
Yeah.
that not everybody else does.
Yeah. And something really competitive because I went to a state school as well, and
Yeah,
apart from a handful of students, there wasn't really a competitive culture in the
yeah,
school I was in.
yeah,
And so you're not kind of, I think you have to learn to get into that frame of mind. Because otherwise generally you just kind of, you don't necessarily get pushed so
yeah,
hard, I would say, in state schools, at least obviously.
yeah,
I'm only talking from my own experience,
yeah.
which is quite limited. Okay. That's really interesting. And how has medical school been overall?
Obviously it comes with its ups and downs.
Yeah.
You have times where you find it really hard and then times you really enjoy it. But overall, if I was gonna give like an overall view, I've enjoyed it. It's been
Mhm.
nice. I've had the opportunity, like in my pre-clinical years, like first and second year, to learn like all the science behind everything, the anatomy, and then like also making like friends throughout it as well.
Mm.
And then like the past 3 years, like which we call our clinical years, so years 3 to 5,
Yeah.
where we're mostly on like placements, which I've really enjoyed because it's put in context everything that we learn in first and second year,
Yeah.
into like real patients.
Mm. And
Yeah,
and
so I've
you
really
lived
enjoyed it.
away, you've lived away from home, haven't you? Or at least for part of
No, no,
is that right? Oh no, you
I
stayed.
stayed at home.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay. Sorry. I must have got the wrong end of the stick. And
yeah,
how was staying at home and commuting and obviously again probably ups and downs,
yeah,
pros and
yeah.
cons.
Exact
Yeah.
pros and cons. So, um, at the start, so for mine, my experience will be a little bit different. But in first year it was COVID, so most of our lectures were
Oh wow.
online, and we only really had to go in once or twice a week for when we had like group work or in the anatomy dissection room. So
Mhm.
that was fine. I think then when I got to second year, we were in university more regularly. And yeah, getting up really early when it's really dark and cold, yeah, it was difficult, but
Mhm.
I still recommend it if anyone's in two minds. I mean, I've saved a lot of money,
Yeah,
being
of
able to come
course.
home my own bed and
Yeah, the
home cooked
home
meals.
comforts,
Yeah,
food
yeah,
and and support and washing
yeah,
and all sorts, isn't it? So
yeah,
you have very little to worry about apart from just
yes,
traveling
that,
and studying, isn't it?
yeah, and the academics, yeah,
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, that's good to hear because I don't know how, I don't know how many people actually live at home and do medicine, but yeah, I lived away from home and
Yeah.
it was a very different experience. Um, so just briefly, just on your medical course.
Yeah.
So I did medicine at the time when problem-based learning was like a newish thing.
Yeah.
And it was only coming in and the old ways of truly preclinical and clinical years had been, kind of pretty much phased out or were almost being phased out, apart from
Yeah.
Oxford, Cambridge, etc. What's
Yeah.
your course been like? And is it still problem-based learning? It might be called something different now, but
Yeah.
like small group.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you want to tell us a bit about that, please.
Yeah, so this would apply more to pre-clinical years, so like first and second
Okay.
year. So yeah, we still had lectures. Lectures were a big part of our first and second year, yeah, but it wasn't just solely lectures. So what
Hmm.
we'd usually have, we'd have lectures throughout the week, and then we would also have like yeah, like small group teachings, which what is what we would call them. So
Okay.
like for example, if we were doing cardiology that week or that block, we would have the lectures on cardiology and then we would have sessions where we're going over cardiovascular examinations, going over like cardiovascular investigations that are done, so
Mm.
like the different types of bloods and X-rays and ultrasounds and things
Yeah.
like that. And then we would have like a case at the beginning of the session, and we would just like work through that and how we would kind of manage that patient and any investigations we would do.
Okay.
So
So
more of
so
like a
it's
hands-on, more like hands-on.
yeah, and you if you're doing so if I understand correctly, it sounds similar to what I did, which was like if you're doing a cardiology type of case, then you do everything around that case, like in one go, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or whether it's so someone presenting with chest pain or shortness of breath, and then you do the whole kind of clinical side of things, and then the disease process and all of that. Do it all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not
Yeah.
kind of it's not kind of segregated. Okay. And I've got to ask about
Mhm.
I've asked you this before, but I want
Mhm.
I want I'm interested in the listeners hearing about it. So I think we mentioned before about books. Like obviously we
Oh,
grew up with books. I
yeah.
still have books and use books,
Yeah.
and I was fascinated when I think we spoke like a while ago and you said
Yeah.
like nobody uses books anymore
Yeah.
at
No.
all. Like
No.
0%.
I no, I don't know. There's nobody I know, none of my like peers who
Wow.
use books. No.
And is it so do you guys use like the same resources but now they're just online? So for example, Kumar Clark or Davidson's or or these, really famous
Mm,
clinical resources that have been around for decades, or do
yeah.
you use other stuff now?
No, so mostly use other
Okay.
stuff now. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow. And who puts together these resources and like and what are they? What are they like?
Yeah, so most of them, like there are a few famous like websites that most medical students will be aware of. So like Zero to Finals, Geeky
Yeah,
Medics is another one. And I think
familiar
that
with them.
yeah, they're written by like doctors, and it's all like online on like a website.
Mm,
And it's really good like how they've organized it. So it's broken down by like categories, so like cardiovascular, respiratory, general surgery, pediatrics, obs and gynae. So it's
mm,
easy to navigate, and then like all what quite like about these websites is very like high yield, and they just have everything concisely. So like
okay.
what it is, the etiology, the symptoms, the presentation, and then the investigations you would do, the examination
Mm,
findings, and then management.
okay. So
Um,
just out of interest, like have you ever looked at like Kumar and Clark or Davidson's
yeah,
in the
yeah,
university bookshop if they have a
yeah,
university
y-
bookshop? Do they
yeah,
still
yeah.
sell books?
They don't sell books. We have the
All right,
library.
okay.
Um,
Oh, of
so
course, yeah,
yeah, I remember at the beginning of third year, they recommended Kumar and Clark. So I went to
yeah.
the library and I did get it. It was quite a thick book. I remember
Yeah,
looking at
yeah,
it, wow. And yeah, I did read over it. I did have a look at it, but I don't think I really ever used any information from it. I just went straight to the online resources.
so the online stuff, obviously, because I'm
Yeah,
in medical education, so I'm really
yeah,
interested in this. So the
yeah,
online stuff is that kind of obviously you've had a look at the books.
yeah,
To me, I would think that. unless you've got like a huge resource online, the books are going to be much more in depth.
Yeah,
Is that not true?
definitely.
Yeah.
No, that is true. The books
Okay.
go a lot into like the pathophysiology.
Yeah, yeah,
They have a lot of diagrams. That's one thing. I think for anatomy they were really
yeah.
good. I
Okay.
did look at it for that. So the diagrams, the labels, and yeah, a lot into the pathophysiology and like the mechanism of actions, whereas the
Mm,
online ones are just more
it's just
summary, quick summary. Yeah. So
okay.
definitely, if you want to go into things in more detail, I would say the
Yeah.
textbooks are better.
Okay. And again, just briefly, because I don't want to spend too long on this, might be boring for most people. But you mentioned before to me once, which I've forgotten now, about how you actually study and revise, because
Yeah,
I was fascinated by that, because
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
what I used to do is I had a book, I would read it, make notes, then for my notes make revision cards, and then
yeah,
that's what I used to revise with. So how is
yeah,
it different with these websites and online? You mentioned some software or
yeah,
something that reminds you.
yeah.
So could you share a bit about that, please?
Yeah, certainly. So, it's quite common in like the medic world and the medic field
Okay.
that we're in. We use
Oh,
an app or like called Anki. So it's like you mentioned revision cards, but it's online. It's on the laptop.
okay.
And the main concept is spaced repetition. So you make a flashcard and it gets stored as a deck, and then every day you would study the deck. So
Okay.
a card might repeat after one day, and then it would come again after maybe 5 days, and then come again after 6 days and after 7 days. So that way you're always going over that concept in like a spaced repetition manner. So
Mhm.
like you're not gonna forget, because I think if you go with like the normal flashcards written one, you might study a few and be like, yeah, I'm fine with that, and not come to it in like 4 weeks.
Okay.
And in them four
Yeah,
weeks, you're
yeah.
gonna forget it all. Whereas this is
Right.
making sure like every couple of days you're going over it.
Wow.
So you won't forget it and it'll get ingrained.
That's pretty impressive. And do you
Mm.
have any input into these cards into making them, or are they
Yeah, yeah,
already
yeah.
kind of made? Oh, so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can
So
make them
I
yourself.
yeah, so I
Okay.
always made my own from year
Right.
one to now. However, there are decks online as well. I think some
Mm,
are free as well that you can like download
mm.
and make them and use them, but I just prefer to use my own.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Brilliant. So just before we move to like thinking forward in terms of career and stuff, I just want to pick up on one thing you mentioned a few minutes ago, right at the beginning when you were talking about medical school, about that there were some difficult times. Like obviously everybody, who's
Yeah.
not just in medicine, any kind of profession or, academic pursuit, there'll be times which are tough and you have to you need a bit of support or you have some ways that you get through. So could you like without getting too personal, share an example of maybe a time when it was your most difficult during medical school, and how did you kind of get through that and make sure that you still plowed forward?
Yeah, so I would say definitely just before my fourth year exams that I had a
Okay,
couple of months ago, like I think it was in June.
right.
So yeah, that was very difficult for me. Fourth year no is notoriously known to be one of the hardest years as well of
Mm,
medical school, because you do the like in depth, you do the specialties.
yeah.
So yeah, just before my exams and like during my exams as well, really, really overwhelmed with the amount of content that we had, and like the pressure you have that you don't want to
Mm,
fail these exams, you just want to move on to the next year, and
yeah.
like next year graduate as a doctor. So obviously everybody recommends that they say take small breaks, but I think that's when you're in the depths of exam season and you're
Yeah.
like, no, I can't take a
Yeah.
break. If I take a break,
Yeah.
that's like 30 minutes of work I'm not going to do. And what if I get a
Yeah.
question on that in the exam? But I would say just your revision, space it out throughout the day. And that's what I did. So I would do like 50 minutes of work and then take a 10-minute break, and then just repeat that cycle like two, three times, and then take a longer 30-minute break. Um, and yeah, and I would also, one thing that I've always really done is I don't work past like a certain time in the evening. So like
Right.
after 7, 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's it. My
Okay.
brain's fried already at this point. I'm not
Yeah.
going to take any information in. So I might as well just start working and just relax, watch a show or like go sit down, talk to
Yeah.
family, something like
So
that.
you're definitely like a daylight or morning
Yeah,
person in
definitely.
terms of studying.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I study
Yeah.
best during the day.
Okay. All right. It's good. Thanks for sharing that. Um, Okay, so thinking forward now to, I mean, you hopefully this year is gonna it's gonna fly by. It's already
Yeah.
like December. In a few months you'll have your finals and stuff, and hopefully you'll get through them without any issue. Um, how do you feel about starting your medical career? Like, what are your general feelings? Because I feel sometimes that the atmosphere for you guys is a lot different to when
Yeah.
I was doing when we were doing junior doctor roles and when we were in medical school. It feels like it could be quite a bit more difficult or intimidating for you guys who are just coming into the system now. So do you want to share your general feelings on that?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like you said, I think it has changed in the past couple of years.
Mm,
So yeah, especially now, like past 2, 3 years, the resident doctor strikes, going forward, and like to do with like the pay and also do with like
mm,
training jobs in the
yeah.
future. So it is quite daunting, really, going into that at this point. And I think the main concern for me is like the training spots. So after you do two
Yeah.
years. Of foundation training and like the training spots after that. I think for me
Mm,
right now, that's the biggest concern. Like, will I
yeah.
have a job?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. But I'm also really excited. I mean, it's a long course, 5 years compared to like everybody else
Mm,
who has a three-year degree. So it's been 5 years. We've been waiting for this moment, and now it's like nearly there. And we're gonna start working and applying everything that we've learned for the past 5 years into a
mm,
job.
yeah.
And start making money. So it
Yeah.
is exciting, but
Definitely.
I would say at the same time it is daunting. Like your future, you don't know. Like will
Mm,
I get a job first time round? Will I have to take a couple of like
yeah.
F3, F4 years?
I really feel for you because we
Yeah,
never had that kind of, we always, one of the reasons I think why a lot of people go into medicine, or maybe one of the main reasons, is because they know that there's always going to be a job
yeah,
somewhere, even if it's not here. But we never had this concern before about, medics not being able to get jobs.
yeah,
So that must be really tough. And has that all of this stuff that's happening and continues to happen and strikes and pay and what's going to happen with the NHS and all that stuff, has that dimmed your kind of, you know, drive to continue in this career at all at any point? Or did you doubt that, is it really worth it? Should I do something else? Did that ever cross your mind?
yeah. I think everybody at some point during medical school experience like imposter syndrome,
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they feel like
definitely.
they don't
Yeah,
belong, or they're not
yeah,
clever enough or smart enough to get through.
yeah.
So I've definitely experienced that. But if you say like in terms of like what it's looking like right now and the
Mm,
NHS and in the future, Um, in terms of completing my degree, no, I've never thought of like just stopping it and doing something
mm,
else. I've always said like
okay.
I'm gonna complete the degree at
Yeah,
least,
at least,
and
yeah.
do the foundation years, and then obviously we'll see what comes. There's
Mm,
2 years, yeah,
mm,
change can happen.
yeah.
So then we'll see from there.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
there are a lot of medics now who, maybe a lot more than I think in my day, who
yeah,
actually do medicine, do the foundation years, or sometimes don't even do foundation year
mm,
and just do something else totally different,
yeah,
which I'm not kind of, encouraging or anything. I'm
mhm,
still, I still think it's a fantastic career. Obviously you can walk into a job almost anywhere in the world. So, I would still never put anybody off kind of
yeah.
pursuing that. Just on that point, has that crossed your mind at all?
uh,
Moving,
moving up moving
yeah,
abroad. I have thought about it.
Middle
Yeah,
East.
yeah. A lot,
Well,
a lot, a lot of my colleagues, like colleagues and other med students that we've
yeah,
talked to, like on placement, they've all said it. They've all said they would love to
yeah,
like go abroad,
yeah, yeah,
and get some experience abroad and
Mm,
then see how it goes. Yeah, I think
yeah.
everybody
So you
has
would
at some
consider
point
it.
thought about it.
But
Yeah,
just remind me because I do remember this happening a while ago. But now you have to kind of complete some training, don't you? You have to do
yeah,
F1, or is it
yeah.
F1 and F2?
I think it's F1 minimum to be
F1.
like
Okay, so you have
GMC
to do that.
registered. Yeah, to
Yeah,
be
yeah, and
GMC
then
registered.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then you can do whatever you want, isn't it?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Well, you never know. And on that point, I would definitely say that if you have the opportunity, thinking back to my own time and thinking back to maybe some of the things I wish I'd have done,
yeah,
I would say if you get the opportunity and it's the right thing for you
yeah.
before you kind of have things that keep you, in one place. It'll be,
Yeah.
it'll be really good to just go and have a new experience somewhere,
Yeah.
learn lots of different things, meet lots of different people, and it'll really help you grow.
Yeah.
Honestly will. Um, okay, just a final couple of things. I know I think a little bit like when you said you only thought of medicine kind of after your GCSEs.
Yeah.
Um, I think specialty wise or training wise, are you still kind of undecided?
Yeah, yeah. So I've not 100% decided. I've really liked nearly majority of all the specialties that I've rotated through medical school. So I'm still a bit, unsure, but hopefully I've got a couple of more months left in medical school, and then during my foundation years, the rotations that I have
Yeah,
can like help consolidate a decision really.
yeah, and kind of help you decide.
Yeah.
Okay. Just one final thing, a bit of advice from you for people who are at that stage that you were a few years ago, doing their GCSEs or having just done their GCSEs and are considering going to medical school. Anything you
Yeah.
want to say to them guys?
Yeah, I would say to them, give it a go.
Mm.
And I know right now the news and everything about the strikes and the jobs and things, but I would say give it a go and to give your best shot,
Mm.
apply, and then yeah, I would just say give it a go and just go for it really. And some people say because of like obviously the future of the NHS, but some people are just scared because they just think, the competition of getting into
Yeah,
medicine.
yeah,
And that's why I'm trying to say just give it a go. Don't be
yeah.
scared. You are like
Good advice.
everybody applying to medicine will have the grades, academically, and
Exactly.
they'll be smart. And the thing that differentiates you and the other applicant will be like through your MMIs and the interviews that
Mm.
you have, and like your
Mm.
communication skills and how you are, because in the future as a doctor, it's really your patient manner and things that really matter. So I would say don't be too focused on just grades, and academics, but also
Mm.
try and just develop your communication skills through like work experience or maybe even like part-time jobs.
Fantastic. That's really good
Yeah.
advice. Thank you for that. Just one final thing before we end, because I know you do a bit of uh, tutoring type stuff
Yeah.
yourself, and that obviously, it helps, and that really, it comes across in you in terms of your com skills and things. So,
Yeah.
do you like uh, d how, because obviously you've done that through your medical school, I think. Um, how did you balance that? Because I never had to or considered,
Yeah.
doing a part-time job or even just something on the side, just to kind of, I just never thought of it. I thought, no,
Yeah.
I just need to kind of focus. So you must be like, one of these super organized people, really like on top of things. I don't think I would have been able to manage. How have you managed to do that?
Yeah, so organization is definitely like the key
Yeah.
to that. Yeah, so so my part-time job tutoring is over the weekends. So what I just always did is try and make sure the majority and bulk, like 80-90% of my work is done Monday to Friday. So that because I knew like Friday mornings, sorry, Saturday, Sunday mornings and afternoons, I'm just going to be really busy with the tutoring. So, and then by the time evening comes, I'm, tired. So
Yeah.
yeah, organization skill, just making sure I get everything done Monday, to Friday. But actually, like you mentioned, like, some people don't actually work during medical school, but I actually have peers who are like working 16 to 20 hours a week. I like
Wow.
supermarkets, they're working as like healthcare assistants, the cost of living, and
Yeah,
everybody has like
definitely.
different circumstances.
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, if that's something that's worrying anybody like to apply to medicine, they're worried about the
Mm,
money or like anything like that, it is doable, you can work, but I think organization is just like the biggest thing, really.
brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maria. That was a really lovely chat. Lots of useful bits of information, lots of encouraging things for our young people to take. So thank you for your time. Thanks for sharing. We'll have you back on soon, hopefully.
Mhm.
We'll chat about your foundation year experiences. That'll be nice to kind of follow
Yeah,
up. So thanks again. Take care of yourself.
Thank you very much for having me. Bye.